Hey, before we get started, I want to ask you to go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, go to Apple, give us a review, follow us on all socials, and give us feedback. We really want to hear what you think. We really want to hear how well, how bad, how good we're doing, and maybe something that you guys want to hear. So do that. Thank you. And let's go. Welcome to Fires on the Farm, episode 271. I am Donovan, and with me is Roy.
Hey, how we doing, Donovan?
We're doing a new intro. We're actually also, side note, before we even get started, so tonight's game is in a minor league ballpark. So does that technically, do we put them in the agenda for next week?
Yeah, do they go in the major league section or the minor league section?
Right.
Well, either way, we got an update on the shirt for you guys today. The friendly confines for the major league segment, the friendly confines were not so kind to the Padres. We have some transactions to talk about. And then also it's opening weekend for all the affiliates. So we finally get to talk about minor league baseball, what we're here to do.
We do. I have almost a full agenda for every level. But first, let me give you a shirt update. I know we've been talking a lot about this, and I finally talked to Dave from El Paso. The shirts came in, but then they went on the road for a week, so they're back in town today. This week, they're going to be putting those shirts in like the community area, where I guess there's a way you can support the community with selling stuff. The shirts are going to go really fast. And then what they're going to do is they're going to send one to one of the coaches. Zamo doesn't want to wear it, but he's going to have the other coaches wear it with him maybe standing around it. They're going to take a picture. They're going to post it on social media. Then they're going to send us a link. When they send us a link, we will post it out hopefully sometime midweek. It won't go on this episode, but it'll be posted out. I'm stoked for the shirt. I can't wait to buy one. And then next week, in the coming weeks, we're going to have, just for 5 minutes, bring on the director of the El Paso Child Crisis Center, and just have him give you a little idea of what they do and how much the money that we're trying to raise for them means to that organization. So that's it. Another quick little update, because I was talking to Dave about this. The new alternate bootmaker logo or identity for El Paso Chihuahuas is actually El Paso used to be, and I forgot about this, El Paso used to be the boot making capital of the world. And every time a new president came into office, he got a brand new pair of, I can't remember the name of the company, but like these really great boots that were made in El Paso. So there's a long history of boot making in El Paso. And another even farther side note, he said a lot of people that are buying the gear and the merchandise are family members that had people that had family members that worked in the boot making industry. So that's like, it means a lot to them.
Very cool.
That is really cool.
Well, I think it's funny that that Zamo, the manager, what managers do, they delegate, and so he doesn't want to be in the picture. But what does he say? What does he say on the shirt? He talks about how managers like
Right.
3-run home runs and a good bullpen. So he's going to delegate this to his hitting coach or his pitching coach. Yeah. That's going to be the guy showing off the shirt. So I think that's kind of fitting. So you mentioned the Child Crisis Center of El Paso. I want to kind of explain the foundation, the group that we're supporting here. Child Crisis Center of El Paso is an emergency shelter that relies solely on the generosity of community donations. Their shelter serves as a secure sanctuary where children can regain their sense of normalcy, free from concerns of harm, hunger, homelessness, or isolation. So a shelter that helps the kids that need the help the most. I can't think of a better kind of a group to support. So I'm glad that you, through Dave, found this organization to help, and I hope these shirts do well.
Yeah, they're pretty sick, and you guys seen the picture, and I'll post another picture on the YouTube channel. But yeah, it's really cool. We're this close, folks. But let's get it on. Let's get going. Talk about the Major League Minute here.
Yeah, so the Padres went to Chicago after sweeping the first 2 series at home. They go to Chicago, have a couple of rough games, and then yesterday's game was an ugly one that they wound up pulling out the win. So the Windy City, the friendly confines, not so kind to our Padres, but that's okay. You're not going to win all 162, where they say you win 60, you lose 60, and then it's the 60 in between, or all the success and struggle happens. So there have been a couple of transactions that have happened kind of as fallout here. So the Padres selected the contract of Oscar Gonzales to the 40-man roster. I think this is because there was an opt-out. I'm assuming that it was an April 1st kind of an opt-out, that if he's not on the 40-man, sayonara. So they selected him. And to make room, Johnny Brito has been transferred to the 60-day IL. I think I saw something about forearm discomfort that was shutting him down in spring training. So that doesn't sound good. You hear that 60-day IL. Usually we know what's coming next.
Yeah.
So thoughts and prayers out for Johnny Brito's elbow. And then, okay, so in that second game, Omar Cruz. So back up a day. Omar Cruz made his major league debut. Congratulations, Omar Cruz.
Change up.
Yeah, came in and pitched a great ninth inning. Actually, it was in the game before, the last game of the homestand against the Guardians, I think. So congratulations to Omar Cruz and his friends and family and coaches and everybody he's ever known. It's a tremendous achievement just to make it, but he'll be back. So on the second day of the Chicago series, he wound up going in there and pitching like 64 innings, 64 pitches to pick up the bullpen. And outstanding job. He did a great job out there. Unfortunately, because of that, he's going to need a couple days of rest. And the bullpen was short, so they sent him down to El Paso, and they selected the contract of Logan Gillespie to take his place. And then the sad part of this whole transaction, friend of the podcast, two-time friend of the podcast, Tom Cosgrove, has been designated for assignment. Tom struggled all last year. He was having a hard time. He was either having a hard time throwing strikes, or when he was throwing strikes, they were right down the middle and he was getting hit hard. And so far this year, he's off to a similarly rough start.
Yeah.
So my hope, personally, being selfish, is that he clears waivers and then somehow finds the magic again and makes his way back to the majors. The flip side of that, I guess, is if somebody claims him, then that means probably a clearer path back to the big leagues. But regardless, we know Tom's a great guy, an upstanding citizen, and a hard worker, and he's going to bust his butt to get it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is not the end of his career. It just may be another door. As one door closes, another door opens. If he does stay in the organization, he's one of those guys where you can put him, he can bring him up and just get a little bit of length out of him. The one thing about Logan Gillespie is the poor guy. He must have been jet lagged with the balk, with the two box. It's almost like a chicken down balk. It's just horrible.
Now, were you watching the game?
I did.
So when that happened, I didn't know what was going on. And it was weird because usually they call the balk right away. Like before the ball even crosses the plate, they call it and they're telling the runners where to go. And this was one of those where the pitch went through and then like third base umpire kind of said, "Hey, everybody, let's get together and talk about this." And there was a long conversation before they finally made the decision. And it wasn't until an inning or two later that Bob Scanlon hopped on the broadcast and kind of explained what made sense, that he was going to go to his windup. And when he goes to his windup, he kind of opens his body kind of like 45 degrees. And then he kind of steps into it, has a couple little bump, and then he goes. Well, in this instance, he started open, he squared himself up, and then he stopped. Like now,
Mud was saying that he had to declare that he was pitching from the stretch.
What he declared that he was pitching from the windup. They assume you're going to pitch from the stretch. But you have the right to pitch and you do your full windup. The only thing is you have to do your full normal windup exactly the way you do it every time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it was like a brain fart. Himself up and then he stopped like he was in the stretch because his windup is really similar to his stretch. He just has this kind of little step into it and then he goes. So after I heard that explanation, it made sense. It's just unfortunate with the timing because that like Kyle Hart had just walked the whole map and the bases were loaded. And then here's a balk. Don't know what you did wrong. Here's another balk. And then two more runs across the plate. A bad way to start your day. But from then on, it was pretty dang good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just one of those games where, and thank God it happens early in the season. Like both those pitchers, the Cubs guy, like we were doing something and we came back, we're like, what? Oh, it's 3-0. Holy cow. And then we got home, we went for a walk and we got home and then the wheels were falling off. and and we just stopped watching because it was like, okay, this is just bad. And sometimes when we stop watching, they come back. And so, as I was watching minor league games, I was doing other stuff, but kind of keeping, the eye via the score of the game, via my phone, but just, trying to get away from the heartache. And they started coming back, and Lid's like, okay, let's start watching. I'm like, okay, they're not winning yet, but like, yeah, that's fine. An early, what is Schulte calling it? He's calling it the grit. He's gonna call it gritty, and he's gonna call it the grit.
I think I saw one of these minor league teams. They gave out a box of grits to one of the players as like the player of the game. Here's your box of grits for being today's gritty player. But yeah, that was the identity of this team last year, that they could start off with the deficit and they just don't quit fighting. And so you mentioned the Cubs pitcher, Ben Brown. He was also all over the place.
Right.
He was just able to get a little more swing and miss. And Kyle Hart, I don't think he had a single swing and miss. But I mean, Ben Brown is a pretty dang good pitcher, and he gave up 3 runs in the first inning. So, and then the second inning was a mess, and I was just ready to be done with the game. Like,
yeah,
I probably would have gone with the walk if somebody would have said anything, but I watched the whole thing. And Jackson Merrill, I mean, the dude never quits. And hitting that home run when he did, and then later in the game, some opportune hitting, that outstanding play by Manny Machado at third base.
Holy cow, that was huge.
And then Justin Turner just whiffed on that catch at first base, which wound up allowing the winning run to cross. And that's just, all the first 2 games of that series, I felt like all the things that were happening right for the Padres at home were happening against them by Chicago. Loop hits falling for nothing, and errors and pitches not getting called your way, and little things.
And it seemed like every time they swung the bat, it made hard contact. They barreled everything up. Pavetta was just, everything he threw, the breaking stuff was just coming over right over the plate. It was like, man, pick a corner, any corner, outside. But it just seemed to find too much plate, and it found too much barrel. And it was just, those are really rough games. But, that's going to happen. We keep, with a strong start, we forgot, they're not going to win all 162. The thing is, with the NL West, it's going to be a Thunderdome all year. I think it's going to be Thunderdome, and it's going to be terrorizing for us. And I think fans for other organizations too, because it's going to be like, after that long, tough weekend for us, a little bit of a tough weekend for the Dodgers. Who's in first place? Giants.
Yeah.
And it's early, but still, it's like the Diamondbacks still haven't even got close. Like, the NL West is going to be just a nightmare.
My hope is that they don't beat each other up all summer long,
right? And
then somebody from one of the other divisions can wind up taking the wild card spots.
Yeah,
I want to see the Padres run down the Dodgers all year. Is that going to happen? Doubtful. Right. So chances are the Padres are going to be fighting for a wild card spot. So is somebody from the West or from the East or the Central, are they going to go off and win 95 games and take a wild card spot, or is it going to be one of these teams from the West? I think the West is going to be the toughest division in baseball.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's enough about Major League stuff. We got minor league baseball to talk about. So we've got our rundown. We'll be right back in a minute.
Boom. We forgot to mention the Eggy.
Right. Okay. You can mention that as we bring it in.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, before we get started here, I really want to give props. It's another season. It's another year of using Mad Friars content. I want to thank Mad Friars, John Conniff, David J, Kevin Charity, Ben. I forgot Ben.
Mark Wilkins.
Mark Wilkins. I want to thank all those guys. And now, new friend of the podcast, Clark Fahrenhold. Thank you guys for allowing us to use the content. Thank you to all the affiliates. I get the emails every day after every game with the rundown from them. I use a lot of that content as well. So just if you guys got a chance, spend $5 on $5 a month. It's $50 a year for a full Mad Friars subscription. You get all the great interviews that we haven't even got. They've got like 6 interviews of players that are going to be huge this year on the site. You can't get it unless you subscribe. Boom.
Now, before we move into Lake Elsinore, we forgot to point out one last little transaction thing. Eggy Rosario cleared waivers. And so now he's been assigned to El Paso. That was unexpected. I thought for sure somebody would take him. You got somebody that can play pretty good defense, second base, third base. He's got some right-handed pop. He hits lefties well. So he sticks in the organization for, at least another round.
Yeah, and I think with that, I was thinking about it. I think with that, it's really early in the season, and teams kind of know what they got. So they're not going to judge anybody on a week of baseball. And so they're not going to, drop someone and then pick up someone that they just got released. Like Kyle Glazer said, there's not a lot of value there for someone that got DFA'd. So having him back in the organization, having him man third base and a little bit of shortstop, probably play a little left field, keep him in the organization. He's still young, and, he can still be a piece of the puzzle, maybe this year or in the future.
All right, so let's head over to Lake Elsinore. By the way, tomorrow is Lake Elsinore's opening day.
Yep.
We're probably going to be publishing this tomorrow, so I should say today is Lake Elsinore's opening day. I will be in attendance. Angela and I are going to head up for the first game of the season. Omaha, the Bat Dog, will be in attendance. So if you want to go see a little fanfare, I heard they're going to release some doves and they'll have all the bunting up. You get your little refrigerator magnet schedule. Head up to Lake Elsinore and catch a really nice ball game. So first on our agenda here, painting the corners. On Friday, A-ball will be just that. The Storm dropped their opening night contest up the road in Rancho Cucamonga 16-9 in the sloppy 3+ hour contest that included 19 walks, 3 hit batters, 3 wild pitches, and 5 pitch clock violations. Oh, and the sprinklers went on in the middle of the game. Yeah. Michael Morales got the opening night nod after making 16 appearances, 5 starts for Lake Elsinore in the 2024 campaign. While Morales punched out 3, he landed just 29 of 58 pitches for strikes. That's less than 50%. You want to be up at like 65, 70%. Yeah. The righty worked mainly with the fastball sitting 92 to 93 and a slider, although he showed a handful of solid changeups to left-handed batters.
Well, that happened up in Rancho Cucamonga because I know it happened in the Double-A game in San Antonio at the Wolf.
It did happen at the Wolf, but I was, I'd rather throw some shade on the Single-A affiliate of that blue team Cucamonga. Up to 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a rough weekend for the Storm, but they're hopefully going to turn around this week. So making his full season debut, 20-year-old Brian Balzer gave up 3 runs in the first before he settled down and showed better command. The righty only gave up 1 hard hit ball, but walked a pair and gave up a 2 weak hit singles in the opening frame. He bounced back with 2 shutout innings and finished the evening with 6 strikeouts, throwing 30 of his pitches for 30 strikes of his 51 pitches for strikes. Yes, I can read English. Balzer, he's an international free agent, signed out of Japan in 2023, was sitting between 94 and 96 this spring. Now, a little bit about Brian. He speaks better. With a name like Brian, you would think he's like maybe a military brat, but he speaks more Japanese than he does English, yeah?
Right. So there's a Mad Friars interview. I skimmed it while I was at work. I will admit I didn't read the whole thing in detail. But yeah, I gathered that he has spent more time growing up in Japan than in the States, especially in recent years. So his English is his second language, if you will. So he kind of had to relearn English when he came back over here to play baseball. So he's watching some movies and TV and trying to speak English with his friends more than Japanese. So yeah, a name like Brian Balzer, you wouldn't think that he was, but if you greet him in Japanese, that's probably a little more familiar to him.
Right.
So it's interesting little story. I always like those kinds of, somebody takes a different route to come to baseball. I love that stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so on the screws, in Friday's nightmare game, there were a few positives. Lamar King Jr. hit a grand slam. B.Y. Choi reached base 3 times in the contest as he drew a pair of walks. The 2023 20th round pick had an 829 OPS in the desert last year, but struggled in his first taste of the Cal League action. And then on Sunday, Lamar King Jr. stayed hot, rifling 3 more hits, 2 with triple-digit exit velocities. You don't see a whole lot of that in Single-A, in 4 trips to the plate. The 2022 4th rounder, playing at first base on Sunday, is 5 for 10 with 3 walks on the young season. Now, Justin Jett, he works for the Storm. I knew him through Twitter before he got the job up there. So he's always been a homie. But he does a lot of really good social media content for the Storm. And they did a little thing where he's playing catch with Lamar King Jr. and asking him questions. And like, I didn't know that he grew up a half an hour away from Jackson Merrill. The little background that those guys have together. So interesting thing. Hop on Twitter, or what they now call X. I refuse to call it X. And look up the Storm's account and find that interview. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, and I think that might be an ongoing kind of bit with those guys. You get a player, just play a little catch. When you get 2 minutes or something like that on a video. So that's a really great thing. I thought it was cool, very inventive. They really kill it up there with the socials. And the next one they had was Kaz and Boston Bateman.
Kaz, that one was so good.
I think Kaz is 6'7". I think Bateman is 6'8", and it's just really good content up there. And there's going to be good baseball up there. Besides what happened this weekend, there's going to be a lot of young prospects that you guys are going to want to see now when they're in A-ball, when those tickets are super inexpensive. It's a great night, a fun time, fun experience at the Diamond up in Lake Elsinore. So you get a chance. And I tell this to every Padre fan I talk to at work, from anywhere I go, like, you want to spend a little less money, drive an hour up north, make sure you can check to see who's there, who's pitching that night. Hey, you want to go see this guy? Oh, this guy, like everyone that lost, missed Ethan Salas, Leo Dallas DeVries, going all the way back to Mackenzie Gore. Everyone starts in A-ball and works their way up.
Now, Lamar King Jr., I want to keep a close eye on where he's playing. Last year, he was DH only because he was coming back from, it was either, I think it was a shoulder, some kind of shoulder injury. So now he's playing first base. He was drafted as a catcher.
Yeah.
So I want to see him get behind the plate and start getting reps back there, but they're probably going to ease him into that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he really wanted to, we talked to him last year. He really wanted to get behind the plate. So I think that's the route they're going to go. You're right. They're probably going to just slow roll him back into the position.
I mean, and these guys, they know where they're going to make their money.
Right.
So he's confident in his abilities behind the plate. He wants to be a catcher. So he knows that moving the value he can bring as a catcher versus the value you can bring as a first baseman, there's some discrepancy there.
Yeah. It's funny how the catcher's natural second position is first base, but that's just way out. Yeah.
Well, it's just because you assume that a big guy can't move that fast,
right,
and that he has good hands. Like, because anybody can go play first base, right?
Right. It's an incredibly difficult position.
That's right.
It's easy, right? Nice reference. But let's move on to Fort Wayne. Painting the corners. Friday, the TinCaps won for the first time on opening day since 2021, and it was a shutout thanks to a stable of pitchers. Emmanuel Pinales pitched 3 2/3 innings. Tyler Morgan, Nick Wisman, Harry Gustin, and Tyson Neighbors teamed up for the shutout. Pinales struggled to land his low 90s fastball in the cold and rain and escaped unscathed. Despite walking 3 batters, he struck out 4. The whole weekend, the field was wet. It was rainy. It was miserable. Just a rough night to be there.
I turned that game on, and I had the same reaction when I turned on the Chihuahuas game, because Chihuahuas were in Oklahoma City. And I'm thinking, it's opening weekend. Where is everybody? Because they show the stands.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost empty. And then you hear the weather, and you see the guys are wearing hoodies as they're plate batting. It's like, the first pitch was 40 degrees and it's drizzling. So for Pinales, I can only imagine what that baseball must have felt like. It must have felt like a cue ball.
Right.
Like, hard because it's cold and it's wet, so it's slippery. Like, how do you get a good grip on a ball in that kind of weather?
Absolutely. So then Saturday, Isaiah Lowe worked the first 4 innings. Lowe threw 57 pitches to get through 4 without excellent command, and as only 34 were strikes, but he also only gave up a pair of hits. One of his best attributes is the ability to in-game adjustments was on display. The 21-year-old struck out 1, but limited damage to just 2 singles. Garrett Hawkins, friend of the podcast, returned to the mound for the first time since May of 2023, dazzled over 2 perfect innings of work, striking out 4. Iker Huzzi followed with the 1-2-3 7th, and left-hander Fernando Sanchez saved it with a scoreless 8th and 9th inning. Here's a little bit of audio that the local Josh Ayen of the local CBS affiliate Wayne 15 has with Garrett.
Field just being out there today. Really good. Yeah, I guess, today was going to be a win, kind of no matter what, long road, back in a game, and really happy of how it went.
The fact that you not only made this return after the journey you've been on through the rehab process, but the fact that you dominated, just mowing down batters left and right, where was your mindset at as you on the bump today?
Mainly just fill it up, try and throw strikes, kind of use what I've been, use all that time to my advantage, stuff I've been working on. And just kind of let it go out. Don't think too much and just, compete.
Super happy for Garrett. We saw him in Lake Elsinore, and I mean, he's all like arms and elbows and knees flying at you. He's got super long limbs. And he shows up with the goggles, so he's an easy one to pick out. But I mean, the guy can pitch, and he had some pretty good stuff when he was here in Lake Elsinore. So then Tommy John surgery, and just it takes a while to come back. So really nice to see him back on the mound.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on to On the Screws. On Friday, Leo Vries set the tone for the Caps in the leadoff spot, singling twice. The 18-year-old shortstop singled in the bottom of the first inning, stole second base, and then scored on an RBI double by left fielder Jack Costello. You will hear this name a lot this year, right. Jack Costello. He doesn't hit for a ton of power, but man, the guy hits everything. Yeah. So in single A and in double A, where the defense isn't what it's all cracked up to be, he's going to just obliterate those guys. He's going to hit for average all year long. So back to Vries. He also struck out twice, although he was punched out via a pitch clock violation when he failed to return to the box on time. I was watching the game when that happened. And it's so deflating. Like, okay, I'm watching the game. I'm locked into this plate appearance. Leo is. And so like, strike two happens, and like he's in his head. I think he might have swung and he had to step out of the box or whatever, and he like walked behind. And then as he's stepping back in the box, boom, there you go, strike three. It's like, man, come on, just let the guy finish what he's there to do. Okay, so the young infielder is being challenged in the brutal cold of the Midwest League, but he rose to the occasion on day one. Look for the try of Vries, Costello, and Durfee to be the engine that fuels the TinCaps this year. So Durfee, I have a feeling when he's not catching, he's going to be the DH. I think he's going to be in there pretty much every day. So on Saturday, a pair of two-run doubles by Brendan Durfee and Brandon Butterworth, could this be the beginning of the Killer Bees, was all the scoring the TinCaps needed on Saturday. Leo Vries went 1 for 4. Here's Durf's double, courtesy of MiLB TV.
System. Hard contact to left center field. That's down for a hit and then some. Vries in to tie it. And Costello scores to take the lead. It's a go-ahead double for Brendan Durfee.
Yeah, dude, when I was putting together the agenda, I'm like, Brendan and Brandon, all right, the Killer Bees, here it is. We got to have it.
I feel like you need one more B in there.
Right.
Got to find another B to get into that. Because like I think back to the Pirates that had Bonds and Bernia and Bell back in the day. Killer Bees.
The Killer Bees. Well, then the Killer Bees were Bagwell and Biggio, but totally different organizations. All right, so batting around. So the TinCaps were 2-0 for the first time since 2021. Fort Wayne's last 3-0 start came in 2013 when the team starting pitchers were, wait for it, Joe Ross, Max Fried, and Justin Hancock, all of whom reached the big leagues. Obviously, Joe Ross and Max Fried are still on the show.
That was a pretty good team back then.
Yeah.
All right, so take us to San Antonio.
All right, so painting the corners over in San Antonio, lefty Jagger Haynes started opening night and made another, just all the weather through the middle part of the United States. I talked to my brother the other day, and he's like, it's been raining for 4 days. And then in a break in the weather, he tried to drive, he lived about an hour and a half outside of Nashville, tried to go to his girlfriend's house in Nashville, and the 40 there was like a tree fell on the freeway. So he was stuck. It was just a nightmare. He learned a lesson there, but it's just been horribly raining, that horrible weather in that area. But I regress. the North Carolina native and remaining Padres 2020 draft class member, allowed 2 runs, 1 earned on 2 2/3 innings. He walked 2 and struck out 4, generating 7 swing and misses. The 22-year-old tossed a career-high 110 and 2/3 innings for the TinCaps last season. David Morgan followed the 8th inning and also struck out a pair. The Orange County native, who grew up a Padres fan, featured a fastball that reached 98. Bradley Rodriguez pitched a scoreless 9th to notch the save. Rodriguez allowed a hit and a walk, but also struck out 1. I watched that last inning with him, and there were a couple of pesky guys at the plate where they were just fighting off pitches. All right, and then moving on to Saturday, Henry Baez got the start, but needed 51 pitches to get through 2 innings. He was charged with a pair of runs in the first inning, then worked around a 1-out walk in the second. Miguel Cienfuegos, 28, did much of the heavy lifting, striking out 7 over 4 shutout innings to get the win. Mad Friars also has they just released it, I think yesterday, interview with Henry Baez. So once again, if you guys subscribe, you get to hear the full interview and you get to hear a lot more about what he wants to work on this year.
I saw Miguel Cienfuegos throw a live BP at spring training. I didn't get to see a whole lot at spring training because our trip was just kind of wackadoo. But Cienfuegos is a big dude, and he's kind of an imposing guy out there on the mound. Yeah. All right, so what happened Sunday?
Well, then Sunday, Braden Nick got the start for San Antonio, pitching 3 innings and allowing 2 runs, 3 hits, and walking 2 while striking out 4. Both runs scored against net were unearned and occurred in the top of the 3rd. Now, you guys, these are all beginning of the season. Get the opening day jitters out. Don't think too much. Don't reach too much into the great starts. Don't read too much into the bad starts. But just let's get the season going and get to midseason where we're in midseason form.
Right. It's also going to be unusual to see guys go more than 2 or 3 innings for probably the first couple turns through the rotation. Yeah. David Morgan, I didn't know he grew up a Padres fan. That's a nice little thing to remember. Absolutely. He's easy to find because he's got a little bit longer hair, but he's got this mustache, this big old thick mustache out there. So it's a distinctive look. All right, so on the screws on Friday, power-hitting outfielder Moises Gomez made his organizational debut and celebrated the occasion with 3 singles. The 26-year-old signed with the Padres as a minor league free agent. He last played with the Kansas City Monarchs of the Independent American Association. The Padres have been pretty aggressive in signing guys off of the indie league rosters. I'm curious, next time we have a chance to talk to somebody from like Baseball America, one of those like national, I'm curious if the Padres do more of that than other teams, or if we just notice it because we're, laser focused on what the Padres are doing. Devin Ortiz connected with an off-speed pitch off Sod Poodle starter Dylan Ray, sending it 378 feet over the left field wall. He finished the day with 2 hits.
Saturday, a trio of bombs rained down on the Wolf from the bats of Moises Gomez, Marcos Castañon, and Brandon Valenzuela. Valenzuela's homer was a 406-foot homer to left center. I thought it went dead center to me. When the 3 batters later went back-to-back shots by Gomez and Castañon. Both home runs traveled 381 feet and 423 feet, respectively, and are both players first on the 2025 season. Now, the Wolf is not a hitter's park. That is a ballpark for pitchers because I think it's the wind that comes in, where somewhere like Amarillo is a hitter's ballpark when you can just pop fly and the wind goes right out. So
it looks like the wind blows. It looks like the wind blows in from right field more than left field at the Wolf. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never been there. Liddy's been there once, but we'll ask where that comes in. But I know that it's definitely a pitcher's park, and it is because of the wind.
At second, he led off with a double. The pitch is a high fly ball hit into center field. That ball's deep, and that ball's going, and that one is gone. A home run.
For sure.
All right, so Sunday, Romeo Sanabria. Hold on. In spring training, we're going to stop this real quick. Spring training, Jesse Aguilar said Romeo.
I heard Romeo.
Right? He said Romeo Sanabria. Yeah. I don't know.
We know it's Sanabria.
Yeah, we know it's Sanabria.
And Romeo, that's probably, I don't know if he'd correct you if you said Romeo, but if he's around his family, it probably comes out Romeo.
Right. Anyway, I think Jesse's Midwest kind of on the Florida.
Romeo, oh Romeo.
Romeo.
Wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Well, where is he? He's continuing his hot streak, adding 2 more hits to his early season tally. The big first baseman went 5 for 15 in his first series. Ethan Salas came through with the 2-run single in the 9th for his first hit of the season. Salas had Saturday off, but caught both Friday and Sunday. The organization looks to push his workload behind the plate more this year after he caught only 67 games in 2024.
I didn't realize that he caught that few games last year.
Yeah, it seemed like I watched a lot more games in 67.
Well, I mean, he's young, so they're probably trying to manage his workload and DHing on days that he's off most of the time. And it's a lot of guys get a day off. Like I noticed, Vries didn't play in Sunday's game at Fort Wayne. But for a catcher, there's an even higher workload. I mean, even in the major leagues, it's rare for guys to catch more than 100, 110 games out of the 162 in a season.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so batting around, we already referenced this a little bit earlier, but in the bottom of the 4th inning, the sprinklers came on, and there was a pause in the action. The YouTube subscribers can check the clip here that Don is going to paste in.
2-1.
But
oh, and we get some extra water out there. The sprinklers come on.
What a weird night it's been on this opening night. I guess everybody is kind of warming up, so to speak. Not only the grounds itself, but even Mother Nature.
Well, I guess the field didn't feel it had enough water. So it's getting a nice sprinkle here. There's getting a little wet over there on the dirt part of the infield at third base.
in. But that's always first week of the season, so you've got you got the Rainbird little control box over there that you program in. And they just forgot to change the program. Oh, it's opening day. What do you mean? The sprinklers come on at 5 o'clock every day. What are you doing?
Oh yeah, it's game day.
Oh, whoops. Okay. So Saturday, the 3-homer inning for Valenzuela, Gomez, and Castagnon is the first for the mission since the 2022 win against the Tulsa Drillers on June 1st of that year. 3-homer innings don't seem to be that common of an occurrence, but you figure that they happen, once or twice a year for most teams, right? Kind of feels like that. So to hear that it goes back to 2022 is a little bit surprising.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of minor league baseball, so I'm sure it happens a lot with other organizations as well. But that's interesting. It took 2 years for it to happen. 3-4 years. What year are we in?
Right. Well, I mean, you go back. It wasn't that long ago that they had Martorella and they had
Marcy.
Yeah, they had those guys. They had some sluggers in Double-A. So a little surprising. All right, so let's move it over to El Paso and bring it home. So painting the corners on Wednesday, after joining the club only 24 hours before his outing, Austin Krob was subject to a strict pitch limit. Krob struck out James Outman for the second out of the 3rd inning and started to laugh as he held up his finger to manager Pete Zamora, asking for one more batter. It didn't work, and Krob's AAA debut ended with 2 2/3 scoreless innings and 4 strikeouts. Krob threw only sinker slider, generating 5 whiffs. When hitters did make contact, it was straight to the ground. All fielded outs were grounders. That's his bread and butter, ground balls.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, Krob he doesn't have any limitations. He's not coming off any injuries or anything like that, right?
No, not that I know, but it was probably just, you just got there 24 hours later. Just get your feet wet in AAA. And go from there. So there must be something that we don't know, obviously, that they have to give him on a pitch limit. Maybe got a late start, finishing up spring, and just however, being there only 24 hours before, maybe they held him back for something.
Yeah, but he's a ground ball pitcher. It's not even like I need to throw 6-7 more pitches to get my next out. It's like, no, I will throw 2 sinkers, and one of them will be a ground ball to shortstop
and kill a bunch of worms.
Yeah.
All right. So Thursday, the pitching staff is the ninth story, combining to punch out a franchise record 21 Oklahoma batters. Oklahoma City, now I think they're called the Comets now, and they are still which is fine, but they're also the AAA affiliate of the other team.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of good hitters on that team.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of former recent major league hitters on that squad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tight squad. So But Ryan Bergert accounted for 52% of those strikeouts. The 24-year-old right-hander trolled another gem in his second PCL start, allowing 1 run on 6 hits without a walk while fanning a career-high 11 batters across 5 innings. That is some serious work for even your second start in the PCL. And believe me, this is great start. This is great showing. There will be a day, maybe soon, that those starts aren't like that. And it's the Pacific Coast League because that's just the way it goes. But to have 2 starts like this from Ryan has been fantastic to see early. So allowing 1 run on 6 hits without a walk while fanning a career high 11, much of like his prior outing, Bergert's fastball was on point, throwing it at 53.8% of the time. He generated a 25% whiff rate. Righty Rhys Kinnear made his first appearance since June 27, 2023. The 28-year-old, coming back from Tommy John surgery last year, came in on the 11th inning. He struck out 2 batters he faced, but after an intentional walk, he gave up a ground ball single that played the winning run. Kinnear's best pitch on the night was his fastball, which generated a 50% chase rate and 2 whiffs on 5 pitches. Guess who wrote that?
Oh, that's a Clark.
That's a
Clark paragraph. Yeah, I've noticed he talks about whiff rate. He talks about pitch usage, especially when he starts talking about like induced vertical break and these kinds of things. I'm like, oh, Clark, what's up? When you know that you see the musical references in there, and you start to know the personalities of the different Mad Friars guys, that kind of adds to the fun.
It does.
But so we were talking about the Cubs series with the big league team, that Vasquez and Hart both struggled. Both of those guys have minor league options. Now I know Hart's on a major league contract and he's getting paid a little bit more, so he's less likely to go down. But if those guys put up 3-4 more starts and they're struggling. Meanwhile, you got Ryan Bergert down here going through lineups like a buzzsaw, and that seems like a pretty easy decision to make.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely he's definitely maybe going to get a start this year, or a call up, or a cup of coffee this year. Let's just pump the brakes on that. We don't want injuries. We don't want guys to be bad, but it's good to know that that he's struggled. Bergert hasn't been the most dominating pitcher in Double-A last year. But to see him come into spring training and have the great starts he did with the big league club against big league hitters, and then move it into the Triple-A where you're absolutely pitching on the moon, it's really great to see.
It really is. It really is. And at the same time, I was there for Kyle Hart's start here in San Diego, and he was really good. What he was really good at was working around the margins of the strike zone. He was locating his pitches all the way around the edges, using all quadrants, throwing all of his pitches in all quadrants. So that means he's hard to predict. And then he mixes his pitches well. So the way that he sets guys up using one pitch to set up the next, he's really good at all that stuff. So I do think that Kyle Hart can be very good for the Padres. Yeah. It's just the flip side of that is that he doesn't have the velocity. He doesn't have the plus stuff to overpower. So on the days when he doesn't have the command of 2, 3, 4 pitches, he'll be a little bit more vulnerable. And I think that's what we saw in Chicago, that everybody was struggling with either the grip on the ball or being able to get a good footing or whatever it was. Like, nobody was throwing strikes in Chicago this week.
No, and you saw the ball that was hit into right field that blew back and had Crone run all the way across the field. Like, the wind really screws with you. And if you're not throwing velocity and you need movement and break, like, I think the wind really affects that. And it was chilly. It was chilly in Chicago.
Yeah. Throwing downwind, you get less break. I mean, even though you think that the ball's traveling so much faster than the wind, it still affects how much a pitch moves.
All right. Hit Saturday.
All right. So Saturday, Stephen Kolek struck out 6 in 4 innings, landing 56 of his 79 pitches for strikes. The righty gave up 6 runs on 10 hits with the wind tunnel blowing hard from left to right. Now, they're in Oklahoma City. We think of all these PCL ballparks being on the moon and you got wind blowing like crazy. Oklahoma City isn't necessarily like that. It tends to rate out more as kind of a pitcher's park, especially when compared to the other Pacific Coast League parks. But still, it's Oklahoma. The wind gets going sometimes, and that's what we saw on Saturday. So the best news of the night was the return of Vries, who struck out the side on 13 pitches, including the Dodgers' top prospect Dalton Rushing to end the game.
Yeah.
The righty last threw a competitive pitch in June 2023 when he started for the Padres. He underwent Tommy John surgery in August and then missed all of last season. The game before that, though, that's just bad luck to come in. You're coming in extra innings. You got the runner on second base, and like one weak hit ball is all it takes to give up the loss. And you got to feel bad about that. But if that runner didn't start on second base, then it's nothing. You got a runner on first base, big deal. But that ghost runner, the Manfred man starting on second base, just kind of winds up leaving a sour taste in your mouth when you're walking off that mound.
Absolutely. But with Vries, he's just happy to be back on the mound, happy to be competing. There's another arm runner that I know he's not on the 40 man. I know he's a long way from coming back to the majors, but it's depth, and the major league season is very long and there are lots of twists and turns. And who knows, we might be able to see Vries back up in the majors.
You never know. All right, so on the screws, let's take it Wednesday after a strong spring training where many fans were asking for Oscar Gonzales to be on the opening day roster. He banged down the door to get placed on the 40-man, or shall we say crushed down the door. After a 1-for-14 start to the season, we'll forget about that, Gonzales hit 2 no-doubt home runs. The home run he hit in the 4th inning had an exit velocity of 111.2 miles an hour and was the hardest hit ball by El Paso on the night.
And I posted one of those videos. He hit it, and he just starts walking, and he tossed the bat. And I'm like, when you hit it, you strut. Okay, so Saturday, seriously, the Paso on the screws is going to be a lot of Oscar. The right-handed outfielder had a triple among 3 hits and a walk and 6 chips to the plate. Over 7 games, he has a 1.030 OPS with 3 home runs and 5 extra base hits. The Alpine native Trenton Brooks, who played at Granite Hills High School in El Cajon, had 2 hits and is off to a blistering 379, 432, 690 start with a team-leading 11 hits in his first 7 games. With Oscar in spring training, that's what everyone's talking about. Like everything he hit, every out, every pop fly, everything he hit was like in the hundreds. 110, 105, 99 exit velocity. So the guy hits the ball hard.
So he is in El Paso. Obviously, he didn't get a job coming out of spring training after doing all that impressive work. Yuli Gurriel is on the big league roster. And I don't want to throw shade on Yuli Gurriel, but he is on the wrong side of 40, and he's coming off of 3 seasons where he's not performed well. So far, I haven't seen a whole lot to encourage me that he's going to turn it around. I think he's got 1 RBI. He had 1 hit where he came up with a situation and hit a little line drive to left field. But right-handed DH, you need that guy to rake. You need that guy to be spraying the ball all over the field and hitting the ball with some pop. I haven't seen that yet. I've seen a lot of uncomfortable at-bats, a lot of at-bats where he looked overmatched maybe, or maybe he was late. And I don't know how long they're gonna keep with him. So they're hanging on to some old guys on the roster, and that's what's pushed guys like Oscar Gonzales, Tyler Wade, you can even argue Tirso Ornelas, that they might have had an opportunity. So if it's still a month and a half from now, and we're still seeing Oscar, and meanwhile you got Yuli Gurriel stinking it up in the major league roster, I think that's the point where they'd make a decision like that. But they're going to stick with these guys for the first 100 plate appearances to really show you what they got.
Absolutely. And someone like Hayward, Jason Hayward, I almost said Josh Hayward, Jason Hayward too, they're going to let the veterans ride. And Hayward's out there for his defense, so any offense kind of that he gives is almost a bonus. So they're going to give them a month, 2 months, and if those guys are down in AAA performing, Tirso has yet to hit something that's not a single. If they start to perform, then they're going to start pushing the door, and they're going to start looking. Preller isn't dumb. He's not going to just give them guys 3 weeks to a month. He's going to give them some time, let them get some at bats, really kind of see what they have with the veterans up there. And us fans are going to fight it. And you're going to hear it on Twitter, and you can hear it on X. You can hear it on all the socials where like that guy's a dump, or that guy's this, that guy's that. But let Preller be Preller.
Yeah, there was a discussion going on Twitter about that today. And I looked back and Ruben Odor and Nelson Cruz were here, 2023, I think it was. And they were here for something like 85 and 93 team games. They weren't playing in every game, but they were on the roster that far into the season. The only case I could find where Preller brought in somebody that was a former all-star caliber player, but a veteran like that, where he let him go quick, was Robinson Cano. He came, he played, I think, 12 games for the Padres, and it was clear that he was done. And he still accepted assignment down to El Paso and stuck around there for a few weeks. But yeah, he was done. So, maybe we've found Preller's kind of started to learn from his mistakes. Yeah, in certain cases, the way that he drafts and the way that guys are promoted through the system, the kind of attributes that they're looking for. So maybe he's starting to learn, okay, let's cut our losses on somebody that's hitting 150 after a month and a half, rather than hanging on to that guy till the All-Star break.
Absolutely. But they got to have someone that's going to come up and contribute right away. I think they're really going to take their time with Tirso. They don't want to have to lay that on him. He's going to have to be a fourth. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like as the season progresses. But that's it for now. As we move forward into the season, we'll have a full week of minor league baseball under this. We'll have full agenda. It'll be very long, and they have lots of content, and you guys will be super excited to be here. So till then, thank you very much for listening and watching, and you can find me on X and Blue Sky at ST Donovan.
I'm at Zippy_TMS. Until next week, let's go Padres.
Go Padres.
I don't give a